Chapter 1. "If we're too late, we'll get stuck in back and we won't be able to see a thing," Cissy complained as she drove with one manicured hand on the wheel and the other madly gesticulating. "For heaven's sake, Andrea, how long does it take to brush your hair and put on a dress?" "Longer than the 5 minutes you gave me," I replied, wondering how I'd gotten roped into this cockamamie date with my mother when she had a perfectly good fiancé who could have escorted her to the bumped-up wedding of a Texas senator's spoiled daughter. I had a perfectly good fiancé of my own who was sitting back at my condo, a bottle of Shiner Bock in his hand, watching the Stars take on the Blues in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which sounded a whole lot better than what I was doing at the moment. "No, Stephen couldn't come," my mother said, as though reading my mind, something she did far too often, and it freaked me out every time. "He's flown off to Augusta for a golf outing with some old IRS cronies." "You mean he didn't dump his plans for you, even though he'd rather be in his yoga pants watching a hockey game with Brian?" I threw out for good measure. "His yoga pants?" my mother sputtered. "Watching a hockey game with Mr. Malone?" Her brow tried hard to wrinkle. Then she blinked and gave me a sideways glance. "You're talking about yourself, aren't you?" "Of course I'm talking about myself," I growled, tempted to ask if Botox killed brain cells, but I refrained. My mother sighed and did a very odd thing. "You're right. I'm sorry, sweetie. I shouldn't have gotten huffy. I really am glad you could come to my rescue at the last minute. You are the most considerate child on God's green earth," she drawled, reaching over to pat my thigh. "And I appreciate that you're tagging along with your old mom." I opened my mouth, but nothing emerged. Yes, I, Andrea Blevins Kendricks, smartass extraordinaire, found myself speechless. My mother didn't often offer apologies, unsolicited or otherwise. "Truly, I didn't intend to drag you out on such short notice, but I only got the call from Shelby Ryan just before I went to bed last night. I had no idea they were moving up Penny's wedding to today," my mother explained. "It was too late for Stephen to back out of his golf weekend, and I didn't want to pressure him." No, I thought. No use making Stephen feel bad when it was all too easy to guilt me into going instead. "What about Sandy?" I asked, referring to my mother's Girl Friday. Sandy Beck had been Cissy's personal assistant for as long as I could remember. She'd had as much a hand in raising me as my mother, and couldn't have been more a part of our family if she'd been blood. "Why isn't she your date?" "She's visiting her sister in Magnolia, Arkansas, and won't be back till next Sunday," Mother told me with a sigh. "Honestly, I tried." "It's all right," I murmured, and added, "I can survive a few hours away from my yoga pants and Malone." 2 hours tops, I told myself. That was all. Then my dress would turn into rags, my coach into a pumpkin, and I'd be all the happier for it. Although I wasn't sure I would survive wearing Spanx. I could already feel them strangling my intestines. Unfortunately for me, my mother didn't consider jeans and a t-shirt proper attire for a swanky wedding. Unfortunately for Cissy, my closet was full of jeans and t-shirts and little else. I did have one little black dress that I'd kept around for a decade in case of emergencies, but Cissy had nixed it the moment I'd offered. "Who wears black to a wedding?" she'd remarked with a sniff. "Morticia Adams." Instead, my mother had deemed herself my fairy god stylist, bringing over a new pair of Spanx, along with a fresh-off-the-rack at Saks Carolina Herrera springy floral dress that was made for a skinny woman who survived on lettuce and water, and/or had the meat sucked off her bones in seasonal liposuction sessions. It would have probably involved amputation or a bottle of Wesson oil to get me into the thing without the gut-strangling Lycra underpants. So, for my mother's sake, and boy, was she gonna owe me big time, I wriggled into the killer girdle and the very fitted dress, though I could barely breathe, let alone eat a piece of wedding cake, without rupturing an organ.